everyone. Welcome to the Glazov gang. I'm not Jamie Glazov. I'm Josh Brewster, filling in once again for Jamie Glazov. Why don't I introduce you right away to my esteemed panelists on the Glazov gang today. First off, Mr. Michael Hausam from IJReview.com. Next up, Nonie Darwish, author of The Devil We Don't Know and head of Former Muslims United. Mr. Ernie White from CitizensAgainstAgenda21.com. Panelists, thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Our pleasure.
All right. Now listen, Glazov gang viewers, we're going to get to the jihad in just a few minutes, okay? I'm not going to let you down. But I want to talk about the United States of America. We have a problem on the borders. I've brought this up a number of times. And right now, there's an influx on our borders of illegals coming into this country from Honduras, Guatemala mostly. Of course, we have a problem with Mexican illegals coming in, but most importantly here is the rate of influx. Some have pegged it at about 35,000 a month at this moment. Border Patrol agents are tending to very young children now on our borders and trying to shuffle them from one area to the country of the other to take care of all the people who are flooding into this country. I look at this situation as, A, the Democrats will never do anything about this. Obama is inviting this, in my view, with the DREAM Act, and et cetera. But what scares me is that it seems to me like Republicans don't want to touch this third rail either. George Bush didn't do much about it, and now we've recently seen Eric Cantor from Virginia lose his seat. And I believe that it is partly due, at least, to his support for amnesty. I'd like to get the thoughts of my panelists. I'm really wondering why more Republicans don't have the guts to do something about this. And as much as I'm concerned about Iraq falling into the hands of an al-Qaeda offshoot, that's very important, this country does not seem to want to do anything about its borders, and this has a tremendous cost, to say the least. Ernie, I'll go to you first. What are your thoughts about this influx we're experiencing?
Well, I just want to say that both Republicans and Democrats are at fault here. It was George Bush who first started pushing the illegal immigration on us. It was the Tea Party that was formed because George Bush, the McCain-Kennedy bill, trying to push illegal immigration on us. And one of the things you're going to start seeing, especially at the border, you're going to start seeing a lot of diseases coming over this border. You're seeing more than 75% of all of these illegals that are coming over the border are other than Mexican. And again, you're seeing a Border Patrol that's overwhelmed by these diseases. And I talked to a lot of the Border Patrol agents, and they said, you know, we're worried that we're taking these diseases home to our families, that we're worried about the terrorists that are coming over this border. We're worried about all the different types of weaponry that's coming over the border. And one of the things that they're really not telling you is when they talk about all the children, you've got a lot of kids that are like 15, 16, and 17. These are MS-13 gang members and other types of gang members from gangs that are horrific, nothing like we've ever seen in America. So again, this is a staged illegal immigrant action. The Obama administration has staged this. This is not something that the American people have ever wanted, and we've got an illegal immigration problem, and Eric Cantor lost because of illegal immigration, and I don't care what anybody else says, he lost because of illegal immigration, flat out, that's it, and the Republicans better get with it. And this isn't a Republican issue. Again, this is everybody needs to realize that America's in deep trouble with this issue.
What's concerning me, panelists, is that if we can't turn to the Republican Party for a remedy, you can't turn to the Democratic Party for a remedy, then I'll turn to you, Michael Hausam. Well, people who are concerned about securing the borders, and by the way, I would argue there's a lot of Democrats in that mix, and I would also argue that probably 80% of the country is actually concerned about the border. But if you're just going to be a fringe kook for bringing it up, and the Republicans can't handle it, and the Democrats can't handle it, Michael, this is a grave situation. Reagan himself said it was his biggest mistake was the amnesty. It was a mistake, and it just goes on, and it goes on.
Right. Well, a couple of things about it. I think when you're bringing up the Republicans, the major concern about from the Republican standpoint, as far as my perspective, is that a big chunk of the Republican Party, they're not pro-market, they're pro-business. And business likes the cheap labor. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce, hugely pro-amnesty. And the reason for that is the more people there are in the country that are willing to do work, the lower the wages are, the better that is for business owners. I mean, the whole they'll do jobs that Americans won't do, that is nonsense perpetuated from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Now, as far as what's going to happen on the Democratic side, I love Dennis Miller's joke earlier this week that the only significant Democratic proposals so far for the influx of all these young kids coming in through our southern borders is to lower the voting age to 11.
Well put. You know, I'm going to move on to Nonie here, but Nonie, Michael brings up a very important point. It reminds me of what Newt Gingrich said a couple years ago. He said, it's very simple. The left wants votes, and the right wants cheap labor. And I can see why there's a fissure between the American people and either of these parties, because what is a country if not able to protect its borders? Certainly Honduras and Guatemala, if you go waltzing in there illegally, you're up, it's a different fate.
I agree that both parties sometimes play games with this, but I think the issue of illegal immigration is forced on the Republicans by the Democrats. And the Republicans are constantly being accused of racism. So what can they do? They take the side of, okay, let's see what they're going to do. And I think I've noticed in this latest event of all these children who are coming illegally, that I felt like the Republican leadership is too scared to object to this, because those kids are not going to work. Those kids are going to be a burden on the system for a very long time, and they might end up being gangs in the gangs. So I think there is. I think that the Democratic Party is predominantly the reason why we have an illegal immigration problem.
But I know that we as Republicans, we're not supposed to like blacks, but we're not supposed to like browns either. Just need to
we're
clarify.
not supposed to like ourselves either.
Okay, just the racism.
Well, Michael, you're bringing up something you're bringing up something that's important, and I'll finish this up with Ernie. Ernie, this is a third rail of American politics, but I firmly believe on an optimistic level. You know, everybody can call everybody racist. You're a racist. You're a racist. You're a racist. Look, you got to patrol your borders, and if you can't do that, if you can't touch this third rail, Ernie, somebody's got to stand up for principle, because I firmly believe that there are people all through this country who would like to get a handle on this and stand up for people who come here legally and get a handle on this. I mean, this is insane.
Right. I mean, when will the country start standing up for the country? When will we start caring more about the children that are here and protecting the children that are here and not worrying about every other country until we get ours under control? We have an immigration system. We have a process. We already allow more people over here than all nations combined.
We've been great to everybody.
But yet here we are, we're seeing diseases. In California, we now have a whooping cough epidemic that we've never seen before, and you're going to start seeing this throughout the whole nation. So again, if our nation doesn't stop getting off this racist nonsense, we got to get off this racist talk and start realizing that first we got to protect America before we can start bringing other people to America, because if we don't do what it takes to keep America as America, there will be no America for no one to go to. We're going to all be a third world nation.
You know what? Someone's got to have the guts to touch this third rail, though, because I think someone who does have the guts is going to be paid back very positively. I really believe that. Right. Pussyfooting around this issue and trying to be a presentable, inoffensive Republican, it's going to get the Republicans killed in every election. Stand up, be a man of principle or a woman of principle, and say something. Nonie?
Yeah, I think the compassion they're showing towards the kids is really fake compassion, the Democratic Party. I think the reason they are welcoming all these illegal immigrants from Central America is that I think the Democratic Party want to populate the United States with citizens who come from tyrannies, like myself. But thank God I woke up and understand that capitalism is the reason I came to this country. However, a lot of people who are coming from third world countries, from tyrannies, they come to the United States for economic reasons, and they are coddled by the Democratic Party. And third world country citizens are ideal because they come from tyrannies. They are so easy and the Democratic Party wants control. They want control of people. Who are the ideal citizens to be controlled? It's not the regular American people. It's third world
Yeah.
country people.
Nonie,
And
you're touching on something important. I just want to jump in. I'll even go to Michael on this one. You're touching on something very important. We're importing a lot of third world
country
poverty.
values.
Yeah, poverty and exactly. A lot
And
of third world
political values.
And we have an anti-assimilationist, in my view, academia is very anti-assimilationist, multiculturalist. Diversity is great. American diversity is great, but multiculturalism posits that everything is relative. No one is more
all of this is
particularly
fake,
great. This
though.
is all fake.
all of it
This
is
is all
fake.
nonsense.
The real purpose behind them coddling third world countries to come here is because they want to change the fabric of America. They want to bring people who are going to say,
And be dependent.
because I come from a culture that used to worship their leaders. If you don't kiss the hand of the leader, you get killed. So what happens is that the Democratic Party loves control. They remind me of Sharia people. They want control. So the Tea Party is a rebellious party. They want freedom and democracy, and they want less taxes, less government. But the Democratic Party today wants total control over citizens, tyrannical rule, and who are the ideal citizens for that? Third world countries. It has nothing to do with compassion, nothing to do with multiculturalism. This is all fake.
Michael, final couple thoughts before I move on to Iraq. Anything you wanted to say about this before we move on?
Oh, absolutely. I think your point about a lack of assimilation and that being a value in our culture is gone. I mean, it used to be that, 100 and some years ago, the Irish were hated, but within one generation, they're Americans.
Yeah.
Nowadays, that value of assimilation and becoming American, it's not accepted, and it's wrong to assert it. And I think you're really on to something about that.
Okay, folks, let's move on to the situation in Iraq. We have this group, this ISIS Al-Qaeda offshoot, that in the absence, with the absence of American troops now in Iraq, is starting to take over city after city. I'll start with you, Nonie, on this one. Nonie, it's an interesting situation. We pull out all our troops, unlike Germany or Japan, where we have a presence and help smooth things along. It seems strange to me that Obama gets to sit back now and say, well, it's all Bush's fault. But at the same time, if there's no American troop presence, whether it's Maliki's decision or whoever's decision, our decision, whatever, if you don't have an American troop presence after you pay the kind of price that we paid in war, then yeah, Al-Qaeda is going to swoop in. Nonie, your thoughts on this one?
And what's the difference if Al-Qaeda takes over or not? Shall I tell you the truth?
Please.
We need to deal with a government that represents what's happening in the Middle East. We are now dealing with puppet governments who come to tell us we have no control over our terrorists. When they come to terrorize you and they cause 9/11, that has nothing to do with Islam. We're not financing this, but they are financing it. So, frankly, it's time for us to deal with the real Middle East. What is the real Middle East? The real Middle East is the agenda of Islam. And I'm not saying radical Islam. The agenda of Sharia, the agenda of Islam is to start a caliphate. They really want to create a caliphate that never existed successfully. Islam is an ideology that thinks of an ideal that never existed in history. The caliphate that happened before was full of coups d'etats and assassinations. It never succeeded. So let them have it. But the problem is we shot ourselves in the foot when in 73 they did an oil embargo on us and we didn't learn our lesson. We didn't drill for oil and we handicapped ourselves to depend on them. We created this movement of wanting to create a caliphate and jihad by giving them our petrodollars. The power of the Arab world today lies in petrodollars. And it's time for us to look at the Middle East like any other part of the world. Why is the Middle East so important for us? Because we've handicapped ourselves so much for several generations to rely on. So they are almost acting like teenagers with us. You're not going to do this, okay, we're going to do terrorism. You're not going to give us money, okay, then we're going to attack Israel for you. You're not going to give us this. So we have created a spoiled brat area of the world that's constantly threatening us because they know that we need their oil. And what we need to do is drill, baby, drill ASAP. Nothing is too late. We can still do it. It's a bit too late, in my opinion, but we can still do it and wean ourselves gradually. And the only way to win this war on terror is when we don't buy 1 gallon of oil from that region and let them drink it.
Indeed, drill, baby, drill. If only we would drill. Ernie White, what are your thoughts about Iraq being, taken back over by an Al-Qaeda offshoot?
Well, she made some big points, and one of them is ISIS has now taken over the oil refineries in Iraq. And so with them, again, now you've got the terrorist groups taking over the oil refineries. America's going to find themselves in a situation, what do you do? And we do not need to start getting involved in, as she said, the caliphate. There's just no way out of that. You do not want to be a part of that. You've got the Shiites, you've got the Sunnis. That's a war that's just going to go on forever. We don't want to be a part of this, but we do have interests, and that's the problem. We do have interest in Iraq. We do have interest in the Middle East, and we just have to decide as a people, what are we really going to do? And can we be honest that we have an interest? Can we be honest that we don't want terrorists having the oil wells? Can we just be honest about it? That we need to bomb terrorists who are going to take over oil wells, hold everybody hostage, make billions of dollars off of these oil wells. And I tell you, when you're talking about the Sunnis and the Shiites, there's no way out of this thing except more strength. You've got to have more strength than them. That's all they care about. And as she said, they're acting like teenagers, and teenagers need to get spanked every once in a while. We can't spank them in America anymore, but these teenagers need to get spanked. And again, do you want terrorists to have control of all of these oil wells? That's all you got to ask yourself. Do you want them to have control of all the oil refineries? That's all you got to ask yourself. Or are we going to take care of business? And again, but here's one thing I don't want to do. I don't want to put any more American lives in jeopardy over Islam. I am done. I am sick of it. I'm done. If they want to kill each other, kill each other. But every time we show up, it seems like the Sunnis and the Shiites hate us more than anybody else. And I'm sick of it. I'm tired.
Well,
I'm done.
Ernie, I think you make a lot of good points. Now let me go over to Michael. Michael, what's interesting to me here at this point is, of course, this country paid in a lot of blood in the Iraq War. And, to me, I'd like to get your thoughts on Barack Obama, because it seems to me that this vacuum, he just seems to look at this vacuum as, well, they're going to blame Bush anyway, so what's the difference? That's what I get. What do you get out of this in terms of how our president is reacting to what's going on in Iraq right now?
Well, I think first of all, he's watching the news carefully to find out what's happening. I think that the background where he comes from, the faculty lounge discussion, is being uncomfortably challenged with the fact that frankly, it's the craziest cul-de-sac in the world. They would like nothing less than the entire planet, with the caliphate discussion, to be living back in the 5th or 6th century. I suppose my ideal prescription would be to put a big fence around it and watch them all kill each other and stay the hell out of the entire thing. Now, as Nonie points out, I need to put gasoline in my car, and as Santa Barbara just announced last week, we're not going to be pulling it out of our ground. So we have a catch-22. So then the other thing from that is maybe it's time to do a little nation building of our own. The lack of honesty you point out, Ernie, is exactly correct. We need the oil, but we're too soft and weak to actually just go get it. So if we're not going to get oil out of North America, then we need to get oil out of the Middle East. And as far as all of the crazy religious infighting and all that stuff, I think we let them kill each other, and when we have an opportunity, we help them.
Nonie, what else did you want to say about Iraq?
Yeah, very important. I just want to give you an example of what's going on in the Middle East right now. This is a civilization that is in turmoil, in a horrific civil war. And In this civil war, they need to find themselves. When we keep rescuing them all the time, we are not allowing them to grow. Just imagine during the Civil War in America, if there was another superpower that interfered in our Civil War, on whatever side they were, and achieved the results that half the population didn't want, they're always going to blame the other superpower about the results of the Civil War, not about what they achieved on their own. See, when a civil war happens in any country, you need to have it resolved internally. And by interfering and trying to rescue them all the time, we are really stunting their development. They need to be left alone, and left alone to solve their own problems. The Arab world needs it to grow.
War should be so grave that you never want to go back there again. And you don't want to fight these politically correct wars. Once you start fighting these politically correct wars, war just goes on and on and on and on and on.
Well, we're in Afghanistan.
It just goes on and on.
Forever.
It just
There
goes
is
on
no
and on and
need
on.
Because we're not
There's no
killing
need-
people
Yeah.
and breaking things.
Yeah, because
That's a huge point.
Because there's no more Dresden anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Dresden.
there's such a big I mean, there's a difference between firebombing and Jane Austen rules of engagement. I mean, we don't have to firebomb a huge city. On the other hand, we're bowing and curtsying and, throwing paper nickels
And
at
expecting
each other.
proportionate response, which to me is insane.
No.
You're supposed to decimate your opponent. What do you think about this, Ernie?
Well, if you look at Iraq right now, you see what they're doing. They catch when ISIS catches somebody, when they catch somebody on the other side, they chop off their heads and they leave it there on the side of the road, or they put it on a fence post. And in America, all we say here is, let's let them build more mosques. Let's let them build more
Yeah.
mosques.
No,
again, so we're not proportionate. When they come out, they're proportionate, and they're terrorists because they cause terror. And the only thing that they understand is when we cause it back. So what does Obama do? He lets 5 of the worst of them go. That's what he
absolutely.
does.
Absolutely.
That's what's
And he
wrong with
bows
that
to all-
country.
and bows to all
we
their
wonder
leaders.
why we're going to get hit next. One of the terrorists he let go said, "Guess where I'm coming first? New York."
Okay.
That's my first strike.
Well, let's talk about Hamas for just a moment. And talk about the virus encroaching. Hillary Clinton, I'm reading from Robert Spencer's piece on Front Page. Hillary Clinton said Monday she's in favor of Barack Obama's support for the new Palestinian Authority unity government, even though it included the jihad terrorist group Hamas, because, quote, the makeup of this joint enterprise are largely technocrats. Technocrats who strap suicide bomb belts to their children, tell them to go blow up some other children. I'm just going to touch on this briefly here. Michael, Hamas is okay, right? Now,
Well,
and then, of course, Iran having nukes is okay. And it's like the virus encroaches, and the virus encroaches, because we're not morally clear.
Well, I think, you think technocrat in Hamas, so she's saying that they're like Paul Ryan, but they performed clitorectomies on their daughters. Is
Right,
that,
yeah,
is
right.
that the
But just
difference?
in official capacity, and they're just very, they're just like bureaucrats or whatever. I mean, come on.
Well, I imagine that is just more hopeful thinking.
Yeah, well,
I mean, the one of the statements from the Hamas leader was to clear up a confusion about their recognition of Israel. I mean, a big negotiating piece with these folks at the Palestine Authority in that is just the recognition of Israel.
Yes, yeah.
And he came out and strongly said, absolutely
Absolutely
we
not.
will not do that.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that on one hand, Hillary can say they're technocrats, as if they're fine-tuning, and on the other hand, the guy comes out and says, well, under no circumstance will we ever even admit the existence of Israel.
Right.
It's insane.
So what I'm saying is, and I'll turn to Nonie very quickly because I want to get through some other stuff, Nonie. There's this leftist line about one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. Now, nobody in his right mind believes that, but there's a lot of people out there who agree with that. I don't know why. They're not morally clear. Nonie, Hamas is not okay. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. It's not okay. But the virus encroaches. Iran has nukes. Oh, well, we'll appease. The Hamas terrorist group, it's okay. We'll appease. It just keeps going.
The United
Nonie.
States.
It goes and goes.
Yeah, the United States has put itself in a very weak position. We have told the Arab world, we need you for the oil, we're desperate, and now we're embracing terrorists. We are accepting terrorism. We are accepting the Muslim Brotherhood as legitimate. the Muslim Brotherhood or Hamas, or, I mean, even Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda is a product of the Muslim Brotherhood.
Sure.
They're all related. It's just different names for the same thing. And here we are accepting to deal with terrorists because we've compromised ourselves and our ethics and our values. We've adopted third world country values like lying. Lying now is cool in America.
Ernie, Hamas now entering the center of the public square now, and that's the advocate, and it's okay, and they're all just a bunch of technocrats. I mean, what is this nonsense? I mean, come on.
No,
we're not clear, man.
No, we're not clear. And we have to continue to look at the caliphate. You got to look at this and understand it. They have to destroy 51% of everybody who doesn't agree with them. 51%. This is how you accomplish the caliphate. You've got to destroy 51% of everybody who doesn't agree. That's why Islam is such a danger right now, because they believe in this. And this is not something that's going to go away. You can try to play games with it if you want to, but the goal is 51% of everyone must be destroyed for the caliphate. 51%.
Okay, folks, just a couple of things I want to get to before we finish tonight. I'm going to go, this is going to be quick here, okay? I'd like to spend more time on it, but a Benghazi suspect was captured. I want to, Ahmed Abdul Khatala, Big Johnny Jihad, whatever his name is. I don't care. All right. Benghazi suspect is captured. Okay, Michael, I'm going to start with you. Nakula was some hapless video maker who was sunk into an American jail on very suspect pretext. He sunk into an American jail to cover Obama's tracks. Somehow this is okay, I guess, because Obama's a Democrat. What are your thoughts? We have a suspect. He's been captured. That's lovely and wonderful. There's still a big cover-up here. Big cover-up. Quickly, your thoughts about this suspect being captured.
I'm just really concerned, is he going to get DirecTV or Cox Cable?
Right. How will he be treated?
He's being tried in civilian court.
Yeah, great news there.
Killing 4 of our folks in Benghazi is a U.S. civilian court issue. I don't quite get that. But I'm concerned about the quality of the television that he'll be getting. So that's really all I have to say.
Very good. Nonie, in just a few seconds, tell me what you think of this Benghazi suspect. I mean, come on.
Obama arrested one thug who has no clue who's orchestrating this attack on the consulate. He's one thug who has no clue who's... This is an orchestrated attack on several embassies in the region by Al-Qaeda and its associates and the radical Islam. And he goes to arrest one thug on the street called Khatalla or...
Because the heat is on
all he wants to do...
That's exactly what it is.
He's feeling the Benghazi heat now, Nonie.
I arrested this thug. He's nothing. He's just a little thug on the street that attacked the ambassador.
Let me go over to Ernie here. Ernie, the timing of this, it's wonderful. He's captured. That's great. But I still look at this guy going to prison to cover Obama's tracks. And I mean, this nonsense is never availed by our media. It's never accounted for.
No, and you know what? As long as the American public doesn't get an education and start understanding what's happening in the world, as long as the American public, I know they have to go to work. I know the middle class is busy, but as long as they just go to work and do no extra time studying and understanding what's happening in the world, no one's voting, no one cares about their elected officials. So Obama knows that all I have to do is just parade around one little guy, and most of America will go right back to sleep and say, see, problem solved.
Speaking of, hey, problem solved, the media has only so much interest in the IRS scandal. Michael, I want to go to you on this. It looks like the IRS, whoops-a-daisy, we lost these important emails. Somehow my emails are all recoverable. God knows what I've written to people. But hey, Lois Lerner and the whole bunch targeting people on a political basis. The IRS lost the emails. Michael, your thoughts about the lost emails? Were any of your emails lost? I'm sure they weren't.
You know, I'd have to describe that as convenient, and I just don't think it's real. Although I did, you know, in April I filed an extension for my personal return, and I can't seem to find my documents anywhere. So I'm sure I'm good.
Michael, before I move on, I wanted to point out, Michael, you appeared on the Dennis Miller radio show of late recently. It was
right. It was last Monday.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Right.
And it was a good time?
Yeah, I was on for a half an hour, which was fun because I've been listening to Miller for years, so I had an opportunity to get on and talk about some of my columns at IJR. It was It was a treat.
I think between Miller and Adam Carolla and Greg Gutfeld, I do have some hope. And I think satirists really deliver more truth to the American viewer than all the newscasts combined. Just very, very quickly before we get out of here, Nonie, the IRS losing the emails, no big deal, right? Targeting your political opponents. I mean, if it was Bush, God knows what would happen.
Under
Right?
President Obama, America is turning into a banana republic. And actually, I'm very sad to say that under Obama, hiding documents from Congress has become cool. They can do it.
Ernie, what are your thoughts? I mean, seriously, if this had happened under Bush, where the IRS is targeting the president's political foes, my Lord, what would be?
No, he would have been impeached right away. It would have been over. His head would have been laid on the side of the street there. So again, it's just the way America is going right now. And again, Americans need to wake up and start getting a clue and get involved. Seriously.
All right, folks. I think it all begins on our borders, and I'm very interested in what's happening in Iraq, but I'm really concerned about what's happening in this country. I never say this on this show. Talk to your Congress people. Make some noise. If you don't like seeing what's going on the border, and this has nothing to do with the color of anyone's skin who's coming over here, I'm very concerned about these borders. But first off, I want to thank my panelists. Michael Hausam, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Nonie Darwish, as
pleasure.
always, beautiful, talented, and thank you so much. Ernie, beautiful, talented, and thank you so much. Very good. All right, folks, don't forget. Beautiful. Michael, you're beautiful.
There's no gender difference.
You're beautiful, too.
In this country.
Listen,
anymore.
folks, the Glazov Gang, of course, is brought to you by the David Horowitz Freedom Center and is always available at frontpagemag.com. Thanks to Jamie Glazov for having me. Thanks to the panelists. Good night.